Ellie, do you need fresh water?
When you guys are coming.
Everyone have focus on
drink it.
Yeah.
All right, quiet 1 second.
So thank you all for coming today. And I understand that many of you have never met until the last 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, and now we're living together too.
So JJ, can you tell the story about that a little?
Well, so I think kind of LeapSquad came to be is that you know, everyone got their headset, and then we just kind of everyone was posting on Twitter, and everyone was just kind of sharing everyone's early progress, and it was just getting everyone excited, and it felt like those early like dev days, and you know, the birth of a platform. And it's interesting because we've not met, but we all have met.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I know your body language and your little kind of, you know, mannerisms and stuff just from hanging out, and and then I guess the rest is history.
What's your experience been with the Magic Leap community?
Yeah, it's been really great, actually. Like this whole group, I didn't know anyone here except for Allie, actually, since we're both in Chicago. So it's always surreal to kind of see Twitter profile pictures kind of come alive and move.
Yeah.
So it's been really great in the last 24 hours. Like I said, we've been living together in the Leap house down the street, and I think we've all gotten along really great and already shared a lot of ideas. We were prototyping and testing things out last night.
So along this topic, one thing I'm really excited about is I feel like over the past 10, 20 years, a lot of our work as professionals has moved into the computer from a very physical, tangible, you know, I used to have all my work up on the walls because I could, and nowadays a lot of the work is digital, so I can't do that anymore. So I'm really excited about all this technology being able to allow us to work in space again, whether it's VR or AR, but just being able to like brainstorm and kind of be creative up on the walls.
And what's amazing about specifically AR and MR technologies that's different than VR is there's almost an intimidation factor with VR because you have the pressure to create this environment that's founded in some form of reality, whether that be sci-fi and fantasy, whether that be, you know, a concert hall or something like that. You have to put forth an effort, whereas people already understand the reality around them. And so when you as a person are interacting with this technology for the first time, you bring your background and your physical experience with spaces, and you say, okay, well, but what about if I put this into a physical space that I'm familiar with? How do I bring my talents to this medium and expand upon the world already around me?
It's kind of like the Wild Wild West right now. There's no standards. There's no patterns that works. We're kind of like the pre-pull to refresh times, right? Like that hasn't been invented yet. So like right now is the time to jump in and experiment and figure out what works and invent the pull to refresh of spatial computing. What does that look like? And we have no idea, but we're all trying to figure it out.
I'm so excited about this because I see a future in which people really can see through each other's eyes.
Right.
And I want to live in a world where we can empower people, especially outside the tech industry, to use the type of technology, whether or not they're developing for it, but to embrace this type of technology, to wear it with a lot of pride, to understand that it's part of who they are and what they want to be able to customize that. The endless amount of partnerships that can happen for this type of wearable technology is incredible.
Basically, it's taking like the world inside your head and putting it out into reality. It's like we all have this reality that exists within us, and we have all this way that we want to interact with the world and how we visualize it, hear it, interpret it. And it's like you'll be able to make that present with other people. You'll be able to share that inside experience out in so many more compelling ways. It'll be this like synthesis of senses.
So you're saying you'll be able to free your mind.
Nice segue.
I'm looking forward to these realities as a personalized extension of the self, and exactly what we're saying. You know, all these wonderful imaginative things we have in our head, not only can that be something where you populate the world in a really fascinating way for yourself, but then being able to share that and being able to say, hey Lucas, take a walk around the world through my eyes.
I think back to when the iPad came out and everyone was like, oh, it's just a big iPhone, you know, and I was one of them. And then you started seeing, and then you realize it's about the content creators and the people who start thinking outside the box, and people start using it in medical and for film production, and start showing you that there's so much you can do with it. And that's what was so fun about that first month with the Magic Leap, is people kind of already had this boxing idea of what they were kind of expecting to come out of it. And then when they started seeing people, you know, take photos with their hands or do spatial computing or just doing some sort of multiplayer experiences and seeing all this, and people were going, okay, this is bigger than I thought.
And it's very feature-packed too. Like there's the controllers, there's hand tracking, there's eye tracking, and it's the first device that gets all these things together into one singular package.
I think the eye tracking especially is really exciting because, I mean, the technology has been there, but it's always been there as something that if you really went through the trouble, you could add it to the system you were working with. And so it's like, it's so disheartening because like, even if I did make something pretty neat for this, I'm gonna have to do work to show it to every individual person. And so just that it's built in and you know it and it works and it has a confidence variable in the API, which I love. Yeah. It's like, yeah, this is something exciting I can work with, and I know that people are going to actually see the work.
Yeah.
Touching on everything you've already been saying, how has this made you think about where is this all going with spatial computing?
So I think one way of looking at it is that I look at reality today as a solid. It's like rigid, it has rules, it's bound to the laws of physics. But what all these technologies are doing in spatial computing is that they're turning them into a liquid. Almost like a new kind of material in which like reality is something that you can change very actively, constantly, at will, contextually, with people or on your own. And this power to like shape reality and has not only like a ton of utility-centered uses, but it really changes how we see the world and how we see each other.
With Magic Leap, as soon as I started putting stuff out there, it almost feels like all of us like started standing up and looking at each other and be like, oh, you're interested in this too, you're building this too, let's work together. And it just happened so organically.
And there's never been a better time to learn new skills that will set someone up to contribute in really meaningful ways. I trained as an architect and was able to teach myself the coding and everything I needed to become more of a, what you might call a traditional developer. And anyone can do that now between YouTube and forums and the community like Leap Nation where everyone wants to help each other out. It's not as difficult as someone might think to get to a point where you can be making really cool stuff and starting to engage in what really is a new frontier where we can all be pioneers defining new expectations of what's possible. Yeah.